Welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to unpack astronaut Sunita Williams' unexpected extended stay aboard the International Space Station.
Yeah, it's pretty wild what happened.
It really is, and the situation raises a lot of questions about long duration space travel and how it affects us, like our bodies and minds.
For sure.
To get a full picture, we're looking at several different sources. We've got NASA's website, of course,
Hmm.
and Sunita's Wikipedia page, and then some articles from the Times of India and Mint. Those offer some interesting perspectives. But before we get into all of that, can we just take a minute to appreciate Sunita Williams' incredible career, even before this whole Starliner thing?
Absolutely. Her story is so inspiring.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Born in Ohio, raised in Massachusetts, both Indian American and Slovene American heritage. And get this, she took a Slovenian flag, a samosa, and carniolan sausage with her to space.
Wow, talk about representing your roots.
Right. And her path to becoming an astronaut, wow. Navy officer, naval aviator, test pilot school instructor. And then while deployed on the USS Saipan, she got selected for the astronaut program in 1998.
That's amazing. It really shows you just how much goes into becoming an astronaut.
Totally. And this wasn't even her first long space mission. Back in 2006 and 2007, she was part of expeditions 14 and 15 on the ISS. She actually held the record for the longest single space flight by a woman at that time.
Yeah, living in microgravity for that long, it's incredible to think about.
Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, during Expedition 15, she ran the first marathon in space. She completed the 2007 Boston Marathon while on the ISS.
That's wild. It's like a whole different kind of human lab up there.
I know, right? And then she followed that up with a triathlon in space during Expedition 32.
She's amazing.
Okay, so let's fast forward to June 2024. Sunita and Barry Wilmore launch on the Boeing crew flight test. The mission was only supposed to be 8 days.
Right, a quick trip.
Exactly. It was a big moment for Boeing, with their Starliner spacecraft, designed to take astronauts to and from the ISS. But then, well, you know the story. Things didn't quite go according to plan.
Definitely not how they imagined it.
The Starliner's service module, the part that controls things like propulsion and life support, it started having issues.
Yeah, and not small ones either.
No, not at all.
What?
Faulty thrusters, so they couldn't maneuver the spacecraft properly. And then there were these helium leaks. Not good.
You've got to be kidding me. That's scary stuff.
It was a pretty tense situation. Imagine being Sunita and Barry all set to come home, and then boom, you're told the spacecraft isn't safe to bring you back.
I can't even imagine. What do you even do in that situation?
Well, NASA had to scramble, obviously. They had to figure out how to get those astronauts back safely.
So what happened?
This is where it gets interesting. They decided to bring Sunita and Barry back on SpaceX's Crew 9 mission. Now, here's the thing. Crew 9 actually launched with 2 empty seats, specifically for them.
Wow, a rescue mission. Almost like...
It really was, in a way. I mean, picture this. Sunita and Barry are up there watching another crew launch to the ISS, knowing those empty seats are their ticket home.
Must have been surreal.
Totally. But while they were waiting, they had to keep working on the ISS. Their short trip turned into this unexpected long-duration mission.
Yeah, I bet that was a mental challenge.
And a physical one, too. The Times of India mentioned that Sunita's actually been having trouble walking since she got back. And this is after 7 months in space, not years like a Mars mission.
Yeah, it makes you wonder about those longer missions. Microgravity does a number on the human body.
It's something scientists are really looking into. Muscles atrophy, bones weaken, and the vestibular system, which helps us with balance, well, it goes haywire because it depends on gravity.
So, like, even after all these years of spaceflight, we're still figuring out how our bodies really react to extended time up there.
And this brings up a big question. If a 7-month mission can have this kind of impact, what are the implications for a trip to Mars? It could take years to get there and back.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is. We'll need to figure out how to not only get humans to Mars, but also make sure they can actually function when they arrive. And it's not just the physical challenges, right? The Mint article talks about the emotional side of things, too.
I bet.
Yeah. Sunita talks about how hard it was to stay connected with her family. She was speaking to her mom almost every day, but still, imagine that constant yearning for home.
That must be so tough. It really highlights the mental strength astronauts need.
Absolutely. So they need the technical skills for space, but also the emotional resilience for long-term isolation and confinement. And, for dealing with unexpected curveballs like this mission extension, adaptability is key.
Definitely. Sunita's experience is a real reminder that space exploration is about testing human limits, not just technology.
Exactly. And while this situation has raised concerns, it's also given us a chance to learn more about the long-term effects of space travel. The data from Sunita's mission could be really important as we plan those more ambitious missions in the future.
Absolutely. It's like an unplanned experiment, teaching us things we didn't expect.
And then there's the political side of this whole thing, which is kind of wild. Remember when Donald Trump told Elon Musk and SpaceX to go rescue the abandoned astronauts?
Oh, yeah, I remember that. That got a lot of attention.
It did. But it's important to remember that NASA was already working on a solution. They assured everyone that they were bringing the astronauts back safely.
And ultimately, SpaceX did help out by giving them a ride back on True 9.
Yeah. And it's interesting, right? Because it shows how private companies and government agencies are working together in space. It's a complex relationship.
And it shows that no matter how much we plan, space travel will always be risky. There will be challenges, and we have to be flexible and work together to solve them.
It really makes you think about those Mars missions. If 7 months can be this tough, imagine what a multi-year journey to Mars would be like.
For sure. We'll have to figure out how to keep the crew healthy, both physically and mentally, for a trip that long.
It's definitely something to consider.
Sunita's experience is a stark reminder that space exploration is really pushing the limits of what humans can handle. We have an ethical responsibility to make sure the people who go out there are safe and healthy.
Right. We need to keep learning from these situations. But we'll dive deeper into those questions in part 2 of our deep dive. We were just talking about the politics and the future of Mars missions, but let's shift gears a bit and talk about some of the things Sunita actually did during those 7 months on the ISS. It wasn't just about, surviving. She accomplished some pretty amazing stuff.
She did. It's remarkable.
We talked about the space marathon, but what about those 9 spacewalks? 9 times, stepping out of that airlock, Earth floating beneath her.
Wow, that's a powerful image.
Can you even imagine?
It's an incredible feat. Requires so much skill and focus.
What do the sources say about her experience during the spacewalks? Was it just all business, or were there, moments of awe?
It's funny. The sources really focus on the tasks themselves. They talk about her installing new components on the ISS, doing maintenance, even troubleshooting problems. It's all very practical.
Oh, like when that camera came loose during a spacewalk and just drifted off into space?
Exactly. It kind of makes you chuckle. But it also highlights how unforgiving space is. Everything has to be perfectly secured.
Right. Every little detail matters. So spacewalks are all about focus and precision. But then there's the marathon. How do you even train for a marathon in space?
Well, it's not quite the same as training on Earth. The ISS has a special treadmill designed to simulate running in zero gravity. So she was logging miles, while her sister, Dina Pandya, and another astronaut, Daniel Tawney, ran the actual Boston Marathon back on Earth.
That's amazing. Connecting with Earth while orbiting hundreds of miles above it kind of reminds me of how Sunita brought those personal items. The flag, the samosa, the sausage. Food almost becomes this symbol of home.
Yeah, definitely. Keeping those ties to Earth, it's so important for psychological well-being during those long missions.
It helps fight the isolation, right?
Exactly.
And speaking of food, did you hear about the wasabi incident?
Oh, yes. The wasabi explosion.
I mean, it sounds funny now, but it really shows how even simple things can be tricky in space.
Right. It's easy to forget how much we rely on gravity. Opening a tube of wasabi becomes this whole ordeal.
Exactly. So it's amazing that Sunita was able to not only handle those challenges, but actually thrive in that environment.
Yeah, her resilience is incredible. But, the mid-article also talks about how this unplanned extension really took a toll on her emotionally.
Oh, right. Remember that.
The article quotes her saying, "This is my happy place. I love being up here in space." But she also talks about how hard it was to be away from loved ones for so long.
So it's both, right? The wonder of space and the longing for home.
Yeah, it's a complex experience. It really underscores the importance of mental health support for astronauts, both during and after missions.
Absolutely. So we need to be thinking about astronauts' emotional resilience and adaptability, not just their physical fitness and technical skills.
Absolutely. We have to prepare them for the human experience of space travel, not just the mission itself.
Let's go back to the physical challenges for a minute. The Times of India article talked about how Sunita was struggling to walk after she got back to Earth. It even quoted her saying, "I've been trying to remember what it's like to walk." It makes you wonder if there's something more going on than just muscle weakness.
Yeah, you're right. It could be neurological too. Our vestibular system, the one that helps us balance, well, it uses gravity as a reference point. So when you take away gravity for a long time, it messes with the signals between the inner ear and the brain.
So the brain basically has to relearn how to balance when you come back to Earth.
Exactly. And if 7 months can have that kind of effect, it's a little worrisome for those Mars missions, which could take years.
It's a huge area for research. We need to figure out how to protect the vestibular system during those long-duration flights.
Maybe special exercises or even artificial gravity environments could help.
It's amazing, isn't it? We solve one problem and then another one pops up.
That's exploration for you.
Okay, so we've talked about spacewalks, marathons, wasabi explosions, physical and emotional challenges. The sources also mentioned something about Sunita's observations of Earth from space.
Yeah, the Times of India article touches on that. It says that Sunita was really struck by how fragile Earth looked from up there, how thin the atmosphere seemed.
That's a powerful image.
It is, and it's a perspective that many astronauts talk about. Seeing Earth from that distance changes your view. She talked about how important it is to protect our planet and how we need to work together to solve problems like climate change.
It's like you see the planet without borders, you know? It makes our differences here seem so small.
Exactly. It highlights the fact that we're all sharing this one planet, and we need to take care of it.
Maybe that's one of the most important things we can learn from Sunita's experience. It's not just about the science and technology. It's about the human perspective, seeing our place in the universe.
You said it. Space exploration isn't just about going out there. It's also about understanding ourselves. And maybe that understanding is what we need to solve the problems we have here.
It's a really powerful idea. Maybe looking up at the stars can help us fix things down here on Earth.
It's something to think about.
Yeah.
Maybe the solutions we need are out there waiting for us to discover them.
We've talked about a lot in this deep dive. The Starliner situation, the time on the ISS, and what it all means for the future of space travel. At the end of part 2, we were talking about how maybe space exploration can help us solve problems here on Earth.
Yeah, it's a fascinating idea.
It is. But how does that actually work? How can venturing into space help us down here?
Well, one way is through technology. When you're dealing with the challenges of space, you have to come up with innovative solutions. And those solutions can often be applied back here on Earth.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. Think about solar panels. They were originally developed for spacecraft, but now they're used all over the world as a source of clean energy.
Oh, that's a good one.
Or water filtration systems.
Yeah.
Essential for long space missions, but also crucial for providing clean water in places that don't have it.
So it's about pushing the boundaries and then using what we learn to make life better here.
Exactly. But it's not just about the technology. It's also about perspective. Like we were saying earlier, seeing Earth from space can really change how you view things.
It puts things in perspective.
Right. Astronauts often come back with this deep understanding of how fragile Earth is, how connected we all are. It can inspire people to take action on things like climate change.
It's like you said before, seeing Earth without borders.
Yeah, it makes you realize that we're all sharing this one planet and we have to take care of it.
And Sunita's extended stay, while unplanned, it also gave us a ton of data about long-duration spaceflight, right?
Absolutely. We learned so much about how the body and mind react to being in space for a long time. That information is going to be crucial for planning future missions, especially to Mars.
So it's like we're forced to confront the realities of space travel.
We are. We can't ignore the risks, the challenges. We have to prepare astronauts for the unexpected.
Because there will always be something unexpected.
Always. And that's where human ingenuity comes in. We have to be adaptable, resilient. We have to be able to solve problems on the fly.
It makes you appreciate the strength of the human spirit, that we can overcome these challenges.
It really does. And Sunita Williams, she embodies that spirit.
She does. As she gets ready to come home, she's not just bringing back stories. She's bringing back valuable data and a perspective that could change how we approach space exploration.
And maybe even how we approach problems here on Earth.
Well said. And that brings our deep dive to a close. Thanks for joining us as we explored Sunita Williams' incredible journey and what it means for the future of space travel. It's been fascinating, hasn't it?
It really has. And it makes you wonder what other discoveries are out there waiting for us.
Until next time, keep looking up.